refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Palms down. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. Anyone here for the first time visiting? What brings you here? Those are here for the first time.
My daughter.
Your daughter. And what was said to you to get you here?
That she wanted to come and she wanted to be there.
See how easy that is? Yeah. That honest, direct approach is, I guess, sometimes works, huh? Well, welcome. Glad you're here. What else? First time? Hand in the back. Oh, did you think I was waving to you? Hi. Is your first time here? What brings you here?
Wanted to check it out. Someone that we know comes here a lot and loves it.
Nice. Well, welcome. Glad you're here. Yeah. First time?
Yeah. Similar situation.
Yeah. Just want to check it out? Yeah.
My girlfriend.
Yeah.
She wanted to check it out.
She
So I
wanted-
came with her.
For support, right?
I looked into your volunteer opportunities, so I volunteered a couple of times, and now this is my first time at a class.
Nice. Well, welcome. Did you go to Path?
I did.
Nice. How was that?
It was great.
Can you explain what that was to everybody?
Yeah, so it's people assisting the homeless, and it's set up a little bit more like a soup kitchen. So you go in and you prep the meals, and they put you on different stations, and then it's kind of like the line, and then people that come in and you feed them.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, Path is, it's funny, for 18 years, this whole temple has really been built on just people's ideas. People have an idea of something that's beneficial and good to do, and sometimes they stick, sometimes they don't. But Path was, a couple years ago, Joe, you met Joe.
I did.
He was doing our Engaged Buddhist training program, and everybody had a project for 8 weeks they had to work on, and he was kind of already doing Path. And he brought that in here as his project for 8 weeks. And it's become something that has just been such a beneficial addition to, when I say this temple, I just mean to people's lives, you know. How did you feel doing that?
It was really rewarding. I haven't been volunteering for a long time, and it's usually something that I do.
Yeah.
So I missed that. It's like a piece. So it was great.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, a lot of people come into Buddhism thinking that they have to learn about Buddhism, or they have to learn about something that was taught 2,500 years ago, or from some other country, in some other language, or some other religion, or some other tradition. And you knowing potentially nothing about Buddhism, in essence, just practiced everything that the Buddha was actually teaching, which is to make life not about yourself and go help others. And most of us come to places like this because we want to help ourselves. Right? I mean, that's how I got into this practice. That's so much of why I've stayed in this practice. But ultimately, the practice is about coming out of your sense of self and thinking that you are. Anyone in here think you're the most important person in the world? Right? You're not alone, don't worry. But the idea behind the heart of Buddhist teachings really is to help others along the way and be of service. You know, the first thing the Buddha said in his teachings, as far as what's referred to as the Four Noble Truths, the first thing he says is that we all experience dukkha, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction, dis-ease. We all experience these things throughout our lives. And the second noble truth is the cause. The cause of our suffering is greed, anger, ignorance, our cravings, our desires. And he said the first thing to do to overcome that first root cause of suffering, which is that greed and that craving and that sense of self, is to be generous, to go give. It is the most important practice. And so before, literally in 30 seconds, I just summed up the heart of the way I perceive the heart of Buddhist teaching, which is to be generous and go help others. So you really, in my approach and opinion on Buddhist practice, you don't need to learn anything else about Buddhism at all. Just go be of service. Because when you're of service, it's not about you anymore. And the Buddhist teachings on non-self, which cuts through all of our suffering in our lives, is in essence extinguished. That's what nirvana is. The word nirvana literally means to extinguish. It's a great rock band, of course. But it's not a place that we go to. Nirvana is not a place like, when am I going to get there? Nirvana is to extinguish. That's the literal translation of the word, to my understanding. So what are we extinguishing? We're extinguishing the sense of self that causes all of our suffering, which doesn't mean we disappear, doesn't mean we fade away, doesn't mean we're not here. It means that we spend so much of our lives focused on ourselves. And if you want to distinguish that, which is the root of your suffering, go feed people, literally or metaphorically in whatever way. So, for those of you who still want to stay and do some meditation and talk about other Buddhist stuff that might be relevant, then we'll start with a meditation practice. For those who are joining virtually, glad you're here. Thanks for showing up. Feel free to say hello as you are. Cinda, thank you for saying hello. I'll comment on that later. I want to get started with the meditation practice. A couple things to tell you for those who may be brand new or sitting here for the first time. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit and we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos, and this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten, shoulders relaxed. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, just try to sit comfortably. If you need to move, simply move. It doesn't make you a bad meditator. And most important, you're not going to stop your mind. You're not going to shut your mind off. Your mind will race. I will say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to the present moment. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought? Return to breath. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, just sitting, breathing. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from your practice. Just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move, And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. It helps you become aware of your life that's a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess so you can make changes in your life. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of everything you think, everything you say, and everything you do. The Buddha called this karma. Karma is not what goes around, comes around. Karma is not getting what you deserve or them getting what they deserve. Karma is literally action. And the Buddha taught we generate karma in 3 ways: body, speech, mind, with our thoughts, our words, and our actions. So the expression to be mindful of your karma is really an important piece of this practice, because you're learning to become aware of what you think and what you say and what you do, and how your thoughts and your words and your actions impact your life and the life of those around you. That's ultimately this practice. It's what we get to do every single moment. Become aware of what we think, aware of what we say, and aware of what we do. And once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they do this, wishing they do that, we spend so much time focused on everybody else's actions. And it doesn't mean you ignore everybody else's actions. It doesn't mean you just turn your back on what's going on in the world. Absolutely not. But this practice isn't about fixing that. It's about becoming aware of your thoughts, your words, and your actions, and how that then plays into creating a change in the world that you'd like to see. But it starts with you. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always really prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with, and we'll use the rest of our brief time this morning for questions. And again, to those joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Thanks for showing up. I mentioned Cinda earlier. Cinda's from Vermont, and some of you who were here last week when I told the snail story, Cinda was joining virtually for the first time from Vermont and really dug that story, sent a beautiful message into the temple email with a very cool, beautiful drawing of a snail, as she was kind of inspired by the Dharma Bum, the Dharma protector nature that I spoke about last week. So for those who are here, Cinda, glad you're back. Thanks for the drawing. Super cool. So we'll open up to questions. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. I'm sitting with something that's not about the snail, but it is about an animal. And my life isn't really crazy or hectic or chaotic. I have a pretty amazing life, and I've only been here maybe a handful of times, but it's been super helpful. And especially with human beings and things that are going on in the world, and what I do inside. Yesterday I was at the beach. I go a lot. I was on a walk, and I saw a sea lion that was struggling. And I've spent a lot of time with Ocean Time, and so I knew that these things were happening. I just hadn't happened to see it. And I was walking towards. I saw some people around. They were on cell phones, and so I assumed people were calling to see them. And I turned around and I walked the other direction, and I wasn't sure what to do with that in my mind. Like, it was so painful. I mean, I thought about your snails, and there really wasn't a thing that I could do. I couldn't comfort that animal. There wasn't anything for me to do, and I didn't know what to do inside with that. Mm-hmm. So if you could speak to that.
Yeah, so just to paraphrase for those virtually didn't hear it, your question is around, coming here a handful of times, way more than a handful of times, but that's okay.
2 handfuls.
2 handfuls. How it's benefiting you and your life really is not so crazy, hectic, stressed out, that you really are, very grateful and appreciate the beautiful life that you have. But with everything that's going on in the world with people, and then coming across the sea lions at the beach, sea lion, right? Yeah. Sea lions at the beach, and just seeing a sea lion really just in a lot of pain, people standing around. And so you kind of approached it, assumed people were making calls to help, and then went away. And so your question is, what do you do with that feeling? I don't know. I think it's first is just the recognition of what is that feeling. For me, what I've learned from Buddhist practice is there's not always a simple question and then a simple answer. Not that you're expecting this to be that, but I'm just sharing for you and everybody. There isn't always, with Buddhism, very specific teachings that say, this is what you should do in, turn to page 17 and here's what to do when you approach that. But for me, a lot of this practice has been about an awareness and an observation of the sensations and the feelings and the emotions as they arise and how they make you feel, which also doesn't necessarily help anything, because then you're just really bringing to light, like, wow, this is pain, this is suffering, this is hurting, and whatever that is doing for you. And then that will lead to all kinds of thoughts about, why this is happening and what we're doing to cause this is happening and what we're not doing to stop it from happening, what others are doing. So those thoughts and emotions then kind of can spill into all these other areas, and then that can lead towards frustration and anger and hatred and disappointment and sadness and fury and all the, potentially people that you may be judging and critiquing and labeling for doing or not doing what they should be doing to make sure this never happens again. And the reality is that's just not the case right now. So for me, I think what I've done with this practice, when I've seen so many things that are just painful, so much suffering, I think it helps to, one, as I said, first sit with that and see what that stirs up, and then go into kind of action mode. And even though I mean, you know the starfish story, right? Where it's all the starfish are on the beach. Maybe you can't help them all, save them all, fix them all, heal them all, but what can you do? If you have that passion, you have that, and I can see it in your expression and feel your, the pain that you feel. There are little things potentially that you can do in that direction to make it feel like you're making a tiny bit of difference. And I think for me, even coming back to the earlier example of Path and working with homeless, it's like, how do we deal with all this pain that we have? And for me, it was just go help in any way possible. And at least you're kind of using that pain and that suffering and that feeling as fuel to go do good. But it's tough. It's tough to know ultimate, wisdom around what to do and when to do and where to do it. And to feel that compassion which you're feeling is beautiful, but it can turn into real sadness if it doesn't, I think, come out in a way that's healthy and beneficial. See what you can do. I don't know if that's helpful at all. Carlos, I use a glare. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to speak to that a little bit more about the big picture. So what's happening in Southern California is a toxic algae bloom that is in the ocean. The fish eat the algae, the sea lions eat the fish. That toxic algae bloom is growing really big because of runoff from the land and fertilizers and whatnot. So when we see things like that, there may be a bigger issue, bigger way to look at it from a bigger distance than what's exactly happening right there. So I just wanted to put some context around what she had talked about.
And I think that, using that example or any examples, right? So everyone in this room, I'm sure, is sitting with something that they're uncomfortable with, right? Whether it's the sea otters or any or sea lions or anything or anyone. There are things in all of our lives that we are uncomfortable with. And there is a very immediate, kind of very experiential seeing and being with and feeling that suffering. And that's painful. And then there's the kind of big picture, what's the root behind all of that? And so anywhere along that spectrum, with anything going on in your life, there are areas that we can be of assistance and help. I think of the story of the Buddha. It was one of the stories early on when, when he was born, they said he's either going to be a sage came and determined that at his birth, he was either going to be an incredibly wonderful king or an enlightened one. And one of the things at his early age was he was playing with a bunch of his friends, maybe 10 years old, somewhere along those lines. And they were shooting slingshot style at birds. And so here's this 10-year-old kid, and they were shooting at birds. And as they hit the bird and the bird fell to the ground, the story is that Siddhartha, as a child, had this overwhelming sense of compassion for the bird that they had just shot down. And at that moment, it was kind of that one of the initial sparks where he realized, I don't want to harm anyone or anything ever again. And in that same life, 25 years later, he became called the Buddha, the awakened one. So in essence, you're really close to awakening.
That's what I was going for.
Yeah, you're almost there. Yeah, I should have just started with that part of the story. And with technology, you could probably condense the 25 years he had to go through to like 5. So 5 more years, and you're there. But I really do. I think that compassion and that empathy that we feel for animals and for humans is a really beautiful and painful experience. But to have it is really beautiful because it means a lot. Yeah.
And I have experienced quite a lot of suffering myself when I have seen things that have stirred up that compassion and even that just overwhelming sympathy in me, and then assumed that other people could help more than I could because I felt helpless to make a difference. And so I think even just approaching the people that are helping and asking what they're doing to help and if you can do anything in addition to help, and not assuming that everyone else has it taken care of and that you can't do anything else.
Sure.
It can not only like educate you about how to approach those situations, but like maybe they're not calling the right people. It's like, don't assume that you can't help just because you see other people there.
Yeah.
So that could
My
cause
sense-
you additional suffering to think that you can't be of benefit in that moment.
Yeah.
To just walk away.
Yeah. My sense is you were pretty confident that what was happening needed to happen, and that's what was going on. Yeah. But yeah, there's always, regardless of the situation, things that we can do that might not seem to be saving the world at that moment, but we can make a difference somehow. What else? Other questions? Yeah.
Let's say, for example, I see someone who's suffering. How can I avoid going into, because if I can feel their pain, sometimes it's really painful, not want to fix it for them, feeling I caused it in some way, but just be with them as they're going through. Because sometimes it's going through pain and struggling that we learn something we need to learn.
Sure.
So how can I not barge in and fix it for them so they won't have to suffer?
Yeah.
So that's a balance.
Yeah, I mean, your question for those that didn't hear it is just around, seeing pain and suffering and how to try to offer help without barging in and trying to fix them. Again, every situation is different, but first and foremost is to not do exactly what you just said, which is feel like it's your responsibility to barge in and fix them.
Right.
Because in many cases, it's not our role.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with us, and they're not wanting us to fix them. Again, so many situations could be friends, family, loved ones, strangers, animals, whatever it is. So each situation is different. But it all comes back to the idea of the Buddhist teachings around non-attachment, that we practice giving as much love, attention, with as much wisdom as possible to people and places and things, but not attaching to the outcome, because everybody has their own journey and is on their own path. But it has a lot to do with kind of this surrendering of some sort of control and expectation that you have on the outcome. We can pour love and compassion into people, places, and things, but that's where we don't attach and we don't tie some sort of expectation. I mean, any of you ever helped anyone and really wanted something in return and got nothing? And then felt like, why did you do it? Yeah, don't do that. So, what else? There's a question here. Did Buddha have thoughts on morality, right and wrong? Was should or should not a part of his teaching? The deeds are part of Buddhism. Even when you're right versus wrong, it feels like a gray area sometimes. So yeah, the Buddha had a lot of thoughts around morality and ethics. To put it into context, at the time of the Buddha, when he first built the Sangha, which is the community, they had 227 to 311 precepts that they followed. And these precepts were there to keep the community safe. So it's important also to understand, if you look up Vinaya, V-I-N-A-Y-A, there's what they call three baskets: the sutras, which are the teachings of the Buddha; the sastras, which are the commentaries; and then the Vinaya, which is the moral, ethical code of conduct and discipline. So these, they call the Tripitaka, these three baskets hold the entire body of the Buddhist teachings. And in the Vinaya, which this piece of it I've never studied in depth, but if you go into the 227 to 311 precepts, it will tell you why each one was created. So it's important to understand that it wasn't like the Buddha sat down and said, okay, I'm going to give you a bunch of rules that you have to follow. Each of these precepts was created when something caused discord or some sort of harm in the community. And so the Buddha said, well, we should probably not do this, right, as an example. And so one thing I love that Karmalekshi Somo is a Tibetan Buddhist nun. She was a professor at USD for 30 plus years, retired the last couple of years, but she taught for us on and off for like 15 years. And she gave a talk one time and said, she was talking about kind of the modern Western mindfulness movement and how very traditional Buddhists are not such a huge fan of that. She would say, you could mindfully rob a bank. You could mindfully murder somebody. She would say mindfulness without moral, ethical conduct and behavior is not Buddhist practice. You must have moral, ethical conduct, or you do not have Buddhist practice, which is so different from what most Western people believe when they come to Buddhism. They think, well, I'm a mess, I hate everyone, I hate myself, I'm going to meditate and everything's going to be better. No. An angry person who meditates is just an angry meditator. It's one of my favorite expressions. The old Buddha for you, I always joke, we had a sign on the door that said free meditation, and twice a week we packed that place with people, right? Just like here. Now, if that sign said free morality class, how many people you think are showing up, right? So this is the practice. The meditation, just sit and breathe. But to actually follow a moral, ethical life, that is so difficult. Because it's so different from what most of us have been doing for our entire lives. Because most of us wake up and think about one person and one person only, and that's me. Well, not you don't think, but we think about ourselves, right? That's the reality. And so putting into practice moral, ethical conduct is really difficult. But if you look at so much of the reasons we suffer, right? Even you look at the 5 basic precepts, to refrain from lying, from harming or killing, from stealing, from sexual misconduct, and from intoxicants. When we lie, when we kill or harm, when we steal, when we use intoxicants, when we engage in sexual misconduct, no good comes from that. It really doesn't. And then the list goes on from there. So the question then becomes, well, who sets these kind of rules? Or very often, right? And again, I just resort back to the fact that what the Buddha was creating was a healthy community. And so these precepts that got put in place were there to continue to create this healthy community. And, practicing those is extremely difficult. But yeah, he was a big fan of ethics and morality. Even the second paramita, which I always talk about, which is the practice of the Bodhisattva, which is generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom. Number 2 is morality. Those it's not in order, but it's the second one on the list, so it's important. And the last thing I want to comment on as far as right versus wrong, Buddhism doesn't specifically get into this is right versus this is wrong, because that gets into labels and judgments, and it's as if some God has come down and said this is what's right, this is what's wrong. Buddhism really practices, or observes, I should say, the law of cause and effect. That every thought, karma, every thought, every word, every action creates another thought, another word, and another action. So it's removing this idea of right versus wrong and understanding that all of our thoughts and words and actions, that is the law of cause and effect. It creates situations. So are the thoughts and words and actions we're having, are they benefiting the world around us, or are they harming? And then it removes this right versus wrong idea. What else? There was a follow-up comment that says, that is the answer I was looking or hoping for, or hoping you would say. Good, I'm glad I can, acting from a place of love and empathy, creating a healthy community. Yeah, definitely. That's difficult, extremely difficult as unenlightened folks as we are. What else? Yeah.
Talk about right view, because I've heard that in that about, so I guess everything is our thoughts, work that comes from how we perceive the world. So how do we get to a place of right view so that things can start shifting in a more positive direction?
Sure. So the question around the first of the Eightfold Path. So 4 Noble Truths, you have the first one is suffering, as I mentioned. The second is the cause. The third is the ending of suffering, nirvana, all of which I already mentioned. The fourth is the path, and this is the Eightfold Path. Having the right view or correct view, thought, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration, all of that on Google for free. So Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, Google, you're good to go for quite a while, truly. And that's, in my opinion, all you ever need to know about Buddhism, but you'll keep trying to learn more because you'll think it'll make you better. This starts with the correct view. For me, the way, fundamentally you can really see the right view as embracing the teachings of the Four Noble Truths and seeing everything from that foundational Buddhist practice, understanding those Four Noble Truths. For me as a practice, what I was always taught around right view was to explore, is what I am doing, right view tied to the generation of karma, cultivation of karma, thoughts, words, and actions. Is what I'm doing coming from a place of, it's all about me and I'm most important, and I'm feeding my cravings and desires, or is what I'm doing about what is best for those around me? Not ignoring myself, it doesn't mean I'm not important as well. But is my view all about me, or is it about everyone around me? And I found as a practice, instead of kind of tying it to like following these Buddhist teachings, because I'm pretty sure, right, as a Jewish kid, so my teachings, from Jesus are not that great, but I'm pretty sure if we all follow the words of Jesus as an example, we'd be doing a lot less pain and suffering in this world. So this is not about being Buddhist. It's not about, like the Buddha said, these are the 10 commandments. You must follow. You must obey or else. No. Are your actions bringing pain and suffering to the world or not? So that's what I look at. And yeah. What else? Yeah.
It's such a good conversation. I almost don't want to bring this up, but I just had an observation today. I forgot my phone on the way here. I was like halfway here and I realized that I left my phone charging at home. And it's just like that classic terrifying experience of like, oh God, what am I going to do? But I came and I sat down and had one of the most peaceful meditations that I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sounds, it's like, yes, everybody knows our phones are distractions, but it was just so noticeable today that my phone is not in my left pocket like it always is. And I realized that I had this meditation, I was so much more present.
Yeah.
And every time, usually, even when I meditate, my hand accidentally bumps my phone, like automatically I'm remembering a social media post that bugged me, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was, it's not really a question, it's more of an observation. And I'm realizing, like, man, I think I need to leave this thing on the table, and just go out into the world.
Yeah. You should actually get a house phone and have a cord and everything. It's not a silly thing to bring up. I mean, I'm glad you brought it up, right? It's not just because we're talking about anyone in here addicted to their phone? We're liars. It's like 5 minutes. Morality. Remember, we just talked about morality and ethics, and it says refrain from lying. Let's try this again. Who in here is addicted to their phone? All right, we're getting closer. So it's not a silly thing to bring up. It really is. Like, we get separation anxiety over our phone. Because it holds, I run, like literally, this is how scary it is. For me, I run this entire temple through this. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yes.
It's the dumbest thing in the world. Now, it is the world we live in, and it doesn't have to be the dumbest thing in the world. It can be incredibly beneficial and incredibly useful and a wonderful tool. And it can also be the exact opposite of that. So, people often would ask, like, do I think the Buddha would have used social media? Absolutely. I personally do. He just would have used it in a way that was a lot more skillful than the way we use things. Just like everything else in the world. Right? Often people want to say, like, social media is the reason everything is so bad. No. People are the reasons everything is so bad. Social media is a tool, just like everything else. And it's a tool that can be used in a beautiful way. It's also a tool that can be abused and used in a very harmful way. That choice is up to you. The phone in and of itself is no different than anything else. It is your relationship and your association to it. That's what's important. And how we use it. Pratitya samupata, dependent origination. The basis of the Buddha's awakening, if he'd been around today, would have been based on his relationship to his phone. So the question is, what is our relationship to our phone? Which is the question you're bringing up. or not even the question, the comment, that for you, you're recognizing how attached you are to it, and the anxiety, and the fear, and the nervousness. What if somebody has your phone right now? What if they're on your phone right now? What if they're looking at all your stuff? Right? Now I've just put the fear of God into you. Do you want to leave now? You'll be back. So that's what's really going on, yeah.
I just realized that it's, for me anyway, it's disassociation from what's happening in front of me in this space all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you live there, it doesn't matter what app you're using or what you're doing, you're not present in your own head, in your own experience. You're thinking about the future, you're thinking about the past, you're thinking about something that's happening in real time someplace else, which makes us all very unpracticed in sitting with what we're actually dealing with. It's all disassociation.
Yes.
No wonder we're a mess.
Yeah. I mean, we are a mess.
You know? I have one more thing.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
I have these reasons why I do it too. So then I'm like, oh, this is so great. I don't have this today. But then I'm like, well, my kids live on the other side of the country. And then I'm like, what if they need what if this is happening? They can't get a hold of me, or what if my wife this and that? And I have all these excuses why I need this thing on. But I didn't have it for years before they invented it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got more justifications than you do. Trust me. You know, I mean, I'm 100% addicted to this thing. Absolutely. And the question is why. As I often, and I'll maybe we'll do one more question, but I'll kind of throw this out there anytime when I do a talk on the precepts, right? Whether it's college kids or here or anywhere, with any of the precepts, especially looking at the precept of, often the precept of to refrain from intoxicants gets translated as drugs and alcohol. It's kind of this way that you often hear it talked about, and I know it's how I usually explore it with people. But the idea of refraining from intoxicants is one of the first 5 precepts. Wasn't specifically about drugs and alcohol. It's about anything that is intoxicating, anything that alters our state of mind, anything that we are constantly craving and desiring, right? And so the question I always ask is, what if, could we stop, right? How would we be without it? And is it something we want to continue the rest of our lives? And again, these are not questions to judge ourselves with, to think, well, we're good or bad people because we use a phone or don't use a phone, or use drugs or don't use drugs, or use alcohol or don't use alcohol, or whatever the addiction may be. These are not things to critique and judge yourself by as bad people or bad Buddhists. They're opportunities to become aware of how addicted and how much we crave and desire certain people and places and things. It's an awareness. And that goes back to kind of Dana's first question, you know, which is the awareness of what's going on in each moment and what comes up for us in each moment. So, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, one more and we'll close.
I just want to say I agree with you, because I mean, an intoxicant could be anything.
Yes.
Because I don't have my phone with me. It's in the car.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't miss it. I don't think.
Yeah.
Looking
You sure your car's there?
Yes. Yes. Paul brought her phone.
Where'd you park?
What's that?
Are you in the lot that says no parking?
Yes. Because I don't know how to read. And nobody knows how to read order, so they.
I hope your car's there.
But I'm just saying that I don't have my phone and I don't miss it. I'm going to look at it when I get back to the car, but I don't miss it. But Paul brought her phone with her, and because her purse is in her right there, and she's worried that she's probably.
Don't put Paula down here. She defends you week in and week out all the stupid shit you do.
That's not what it is.
You know? For how many years? 30 years, right? 28 years? How many years?
32.
32 years she's been defending you, and you're putting it down.
Well, it's about time. But, you know, she's got a...
I credit you both for coming here together so often.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm not worthy.
We're going to join palms and close on that. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Gracie Hatch in her time of continuous healing and her family who suffers at this time. All right, a few quick announcements before y'all head out. Thanks for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma Bum. We opened up this temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students. We're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Every night we have different people leading from a different Buddhist tradition. Every Thursday, 4:30, we do probably, I think, one of the best things around here. It's a food redistribution program. We prepare gourmet vegetarian meals, and we feed people who sleep on the street every night. So anytime you think your life sucks and you lack gratitude, go feed people who sleep on the streets every Thursday night. Or Tuesdays as well. Path is every Tuesday at 5:30, I believe. Say again? 5, sorry, thank you, 5. Tuesday at 5. All that's on the website. You can sign up there. Path you do have to register for because it fills up. Thursdays you can just show up any Thursday. Other than that, Day of Silence. We do a Day of Silence retreat we have for probably 15 years, the first Saturday of every month. It's a 4-hour retreat. If you've never done 20 minutes of meditation and silence is torture, I strongly recommend you try it for 4 hours. It's 20-minute meditations. It's broken up with a 5-minute kind of break to stretch, walk, whatever it might be. There's also a walking meditation and cleaning meditation. That is the first Saturday of every month from 8 to noon. But I bring this up not because I want you all to show up. We really need, I'd love at this point 2. One would be great, but we need at least 2 people. We've had the same group leading that for years. And we're really looking for some new people to kind of start leading that and take the pressure off of the few people that are still leading it. To lead it, you simply hit a bell to start and stop it every 25 minutes for 4 hours. There's a script. We will show you how to do it. You will get trained. You have a shoji, which is a helper. And even being just a helper, you literally read a script a few times and pieces to it throughout the retreat. So first Saturday of every month, I would love 2 more people right now. If nothing else, it will commit you to showing up the first Saturday of the month every so often and getting quiet without your phone for 4 hours. So if you're interested in that, please come up to me, let me know, or ponder it and send a message to the website. And lastly, today we're doing our kind of little change. First, monthly cleaning, temple cleaning. We do it kind of sporadically throughout the year and throughout the weeks, but we're now doing a monthly clean. And so we have probably Vicky and Jen are out there somewhere. Vicky and Jen, are you out there? They're out there somewhere. But so if anybody who was planning to stay or wants to stay or came for it specifically, we'll be cleaning now from 12 to 2. Vicky and Jen, if you are staying for that, maybe just go to the back of the meditation hall and they'll come in and take over from there. So